Okay. So what I want to talk about today is my 9/11 experience. This is something that I've told a few people, but not that many. And I think it's because of fears in the past about coming across as weird or arrogant, um, or disrespectful. And so I've just kind of kept it to myself. My boyfriend was the first person I ever told, and that had been, I guess, like 3 years after the fact. And so, yeah, like I'm amazed now that I went so long without telling anybody about this. Um, but that's just kind of where I was at. I wasn't around people who would get it, or not on that same level. I guess here's the people was around. They were fine. They would have probably have been like surprised, and I think they would have believed me, but they couldn't help me understand it. I think that's the key. And so I just sort of kept it to myself. And then when I met my boyfriend, it was clear that he was somebody who could help me sort of figure this out, kind of give me permission to take this as seriously as it felt. So, my 9/11 story is this. On August 20th of 2001, I started working at a club, a private city club in Kentucky. And this club was, it's a city club. For those of you who may not be familiar with that term, is like a country club, but it's in the city. And rather than having like tennis and golf and, that a swimming pool and that kind of thing, it has like boardrooms and little parlor rooms and banquet hall and fancy restaurants and meeting spaces and things like that. So it kind of serves a metropolitan area's needs. And it was really, it was a nice place. I had been a waitress up until that point, and I actually got a job as a receptionist because I had restaurant experience, but I also had a degree in acting. And so I was able to sort of play the part of gracious hostess to politicians and, business owners and CEOs and that kind of thing. And I mean, and it really was acting because I was very intimidated by the atmosphere, but also I felt kind of rebellious and like I was getting to see. I felt kind of like an undercover agent in a way. I really did. And not like I wasn't meddling with anybody's actual business or anything like that, but just observing, like psychologically, I was like an undercover agent in this world of people with power. And it was just sort of fascinating to realize that it is different than the way my family interacted. And my family was middle, lower middle class, upper middle class kind of range. And we were dysfunctional, and we were strange, but we were real. And even in like restaurants, like, a restaurant that's not that fancy or whatever, being at work or at school, in college, it's like there's just a realness in the world that is very different than how people with power interact. It's politics. It's, I mean, we all put on a show. We all present ourselves in a certain way, But this is a very narrow field of how one can present themselves. So it takes more effort to be accepted than in a lot of other kind of cultures within this country. So it was interesting to see that and to really wonder, like, what is behind that mask? I couldn't read it as clearly as I could with other people that I encounter. And that was so consistent. It was like, wow, these people are just sort of cut off. And not all of them. I mean, there really were some that had a genuine warmth. And you could tell that they were sort of playing the game and still staying connected to a higher sense of purpose or being. But there's still, at least on my end, a kind of sadness that so much of this person's time was spent working.
Let's cut out the melodrama so we can wake up the whole wide world. Let's make up and start all over and awaken the boys and the girls.